All right, welcome back, everybody. Well, recently had opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with Sam Popkin. Sam is a fellow YouTuber, fellow sort of Beatle nerd, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. And just puts out great content. A lot of you, I think, who appreciate my channel would love a lot of what Sam puts out. He does these great guitar covers of a lot of bands, but a lot of Beatles content for sure. And here's just a taste of what you'll find on his channel.
I could listen to him for hours.
Yeah, definitely a lot of greatness there. So stick around. We have a great long conversation. We talk about what got him started on guitar, what got me started on guitar, like how he fell into the Beatles rabbit hole, and learn more about what he's got on his channels and his content and a little more of his story. So just sit back, crack a beer, hang out with us, and hope you enjoy the conversation. This is Sam Popkin. Check it out. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Sam Popkin. Sam, where do you hail from? Where are you joining us from?
Thanks for having me, Doug. Right now I'm in New York, about an hour above Manhattan, but originally I'm from Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
So Sam, I got turned on to your channel because I'm a total Beatle nerd, or have been raised a Beatle nerd anyway. And I thought I was the only one. And the great thing about the internet is you get to discover that you're not the only one. And there's people that are way more nerdy than you are into this. But I loved what I was seeing when you started your channel, because you're doing the things that, a lot of us as guitar players that, love that band sort of endeavor to do, which is sort of, I don't know, recreate. Like you want to recreate it. You want to be able to see if you could do what they did, play it exactly like the record, and you do a great job with that. Anyway, but before we get too much into that, tell us like your guitar journey. Take us from zero guitar to where you are now.
Yeah, so I, like a lot of kids, I took piano or like violin growing up, but it didn't necessarily stick, I guess. But before playing guitar, my dad showed me Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen at age 5 and took me to a Springsteen show in the Meadowlands. And that really informed my like rock and roll sensibilities.
Nice.
But yeah, I've been listening to the Beatles since I can remember. But I didn't really take up guitar until I was 11 years old and took some lessons. I had a really good teacher who was a cool like rock and roll guy named Mike that he helped me through kind of whatever thing I was interested in at the time, whether that was like Tenacious D or like Queen or like random songs from TV shows. Like he would teach me anything. So I did have a little training, but then I just kind of kept with it, especially ear training. And I guess you could say I'm mostly self-taught other than that. So I always kind of, for some reason, I don't have a lot of skills in my life, but taking in a song and learning by ear the chords was something that I could just always do. So that helps. I mean, you're the
That's
same way.
great.
You have that
Yeah.
same ear.
Are you of the, are you of the, you're a younger man than I, so I'm assuming you're of the sort of CD generation, or maybe cassettes, but probably CDs, right? At the earliest.
Definitely CDs was my thing. Yeah.
Mine was still early enough where I was learning it on albums and cassettes. So it literally was picking up the needle and moving it back.
And what info did you have at that point? Like score books, like those kind of music sheet books, which aren't always
Awful.
accurate, as we know.
Awful. In fact, I started my, like, this is for real, like the anger, I don't know if that's too strong a word. The anger I had as a 15-year-old kid, when I would go into music stores and buy, like, and I was focused on the Beatles in the very early years too, of like, oh, they got the songbooks, and you get the songbook. Oh, the complete Beatles songbook, volume 1 and 2. This has got to be right. And you sort of get home and you open it up, and you just immediately know, like, well, that's wrong. That's totally wrong. That's
Hey Jude
so
in
simple.
the key of G or something like
Right.
that. Yeah.
It would make me so mad. And so that was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to start my channel, is because, not that I'm 100% right on everything that I do, like who
Pretty
sort
damn
of,
close though.
but it would just make me mad that they would put things out there of like, this is how you play Nowhere Man. I'm like, no, it's not. It's so
Right.
not.
Right.
And anyway,
You share my
yeah,
frustration then.
yeah, no, and I can tell with what you're putting out. It's like you're like, okay, well, there's 6 guitar tracks, there's 4 layered acoustics, or there's obviously more than 2 layered acoustics, and you build it, and you probably just endeavor to figure it out and trial and error, and then you get it to a place where you're being yours versus the record, right?
Yeah, although you think that you know how to play it, you've been playing it a certain way for years, and then you maybe isolate the track, or you see someone else doing it a certain way, and you're like, oh my God, it actually teaches you when you're learning these songs accurately. So it's kind
I
of
agree.
interesting that you're learning with everyone else as you're trying to put it out there for people to learn.
I wish if we had YouTube when I was 15 starting to play guitar. Oh my gosh.
Well, that was the
Okay.
funny thing with Michael Sokil's channel. When I started doing my channel, I was like, oh my God, who's this guy who's like doing exactly what I'm about to start doing, and so perfectly. Apparently Michael had been doing it though since like early YouTube, like 2008 or whatever, and I didn't realize that. But how long have you had your channel for?
You know what? It's just about to tick over to 3 years exactly.
Nice.
And my commitment to myself that I did was a video a week. Like, I'll just do a video a week. And I've got sort of an endless list of, you probably have it in your head too. Like, you have an endless list of songs that you've sort of learned either 100% or at least 80% out of the gate. You can get there, get really close.
Yeah, the challenge is fun. Although I find now that when I've covered a song and I've spent hours listening to it, suddenly that song, like if it was Help or whatever, I don't really want to be listening to that in like leisurely. It might take even a year or two to like get back into like listening to that song just for fun, because it's, I don't know.
Yeah, you sort of it sort of imprints on your brain, like, because it's on high rotation for a focused period of time, right? You're just like, okay, I need to move on.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Beatles were like, or maybe your dad got you into rock and roll primarily through Bruce. What was it, your parents that sort of introduced you to Beatles music? Like, what's your earliest memory of like being introduced to that? And like, what was it right away? Like, when did you sort of like start going down that rabbit hole? And what era was it? And like, how did that go for you?
My earliest memories, I remember being in the car when my mom and Hey Bulldog came on. I was maybe like 4, and that might be the first song I heard. Although I remember the Please Please Me album. I think it really clicked when I saw A Hard Day's Night or Yellow Submarine, the movies, and getting to know their personalities. And I had a little song book, as we were talking about, but it wasn't the chords, it was just the lyrics. And I would just skim through that book and just memorize their lyrics. And I guess, yeah, by age like 8, I felt like I was fully into the Beatles.
Wow, that's
And
really early.
Bruce. Yeah, Bruce and the Beatles. Guitar was, I think it was my dad's idea to get me into guitar. And he had this joke, like when we went into my first lesson, he's like, by the time you're done, you're going to be playing Jimi Hendrix. But I think at that age, you don't realize like what the joke is. So I was kind of like really serious about it. I was like, yeah, I need to learn Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, right.
But apparently it went well because I was a group lesson, and I was already by the first lesson like getting impatient with the other students. So I guess I advanced pretty quickly. So it was good that he brought me to that lesson. What about you? When did you start?
Yeah, so my parents went on a trip to Puerto Rico. We were living in Southern California at the time. So this is like 12, 13. And they brought back a 3/4 scale classical guitar and, like a book, how to play guitar. And inside the book was like a little plastic record. You could actually tear it out and put that record on a turntable. And it was just dung, here's E, dung, here's A, you know what I mean? To be able to tune your guitar kind of thing. And it stayed in the closet for like a year and a half. And then my mom said, you're going to learn, or I'm going to sign you up for guitar in 8th grade, because they were actually doing it at school. And so it was a big group, like you said, like your situation. It was a group lesson for a semester in 8th grade, and we would play like, Christmas songs and, Mary Had a Little Lamb and like those basic things. But what I took from it was learning the picture chords, because I can't read music, but I can look at a picture of a chord and okay, that's an A and that's a D. And so that stuck with me. And I had natural ability, or it seemed to be that I could pick things up easily. And so that was about 13, and put it down for a little while after that. And then a buddy of mine and I, for whatever reason, I don't even know why, but for whatever reason, got totally immersed in the Beatles. Like, he had a couple records. We would rent VHS movies and watch that stuff, and we got totally into it. And then I pulled out my guitar and I could start to play those songs, and that's what sort of took off from there. But yeah, that was my early days. What was your first electric guitar?
I actually have it, so maybe I'll just go grab it really quick.
Yeah.
Pretty lucky young 13-year-old boy to have a
Dude.
Yeah, this is my first electric. I was playing an acoustic before that, a Martin, like one of the cheaper Martins that are kind of like half wood, half plastic or whatever. But yeah, my dad got me this Les Paul Standard, 2005. I bought it new. It was a choice between this and an SG Standard, and I was really into Angus Young at the time, as 13-year-old boys are wont to be. But or
55-year-old dudes,
or yeah, everybody loves Angus. So I had the choice, and it was tricky. And if it had been like a year before, I would have gotten the SG. But I know that you're a Jimmy Page fan. Jimmy started to become a hero, so it was this one, and I bought it new, and I've had it ever since. It's incredible. Very heavy. It's like 10 pounds, something like that. Pretty lucky to have that. And that was,
Sweet.
What about you? First electric?
My first electric was an 82 or 83. It's called a Fender Bullet.
Yeah.
And
I know this.
And they had a couple different, so it was a junior, I don't know if it was short scale or not. They had a couple different models of those. Mine was double humbucker, and it was sort of like a Strat. I was so naive and unknowing about guitars that I would look on MTV and I would see somebody playing a Strat, and I thought that was the same guitar that I had, because it was roughly the same horns and everything, but that was the first one. What's next on your list? We all have gas.
Oh boy, do we have gas?
Yeah.
So next on the agenda, I really want a 6120, the Gretsch Chet Atkins orange one
Yep.
with the single cutaway, because Pete Townsend is my hero. That's kind of
Yes.
my dream guitar. I've always wanted that.
Oh.
Or a Rickenbacker, like Paul McCartney, 4001 or 4003 Fire Glow,
Nice,
dot
nice.
one. Yeah.
The list is endless. Do you like have a end of life goal of having the entire Beatle guitar arsenal?
That's dangerous. I feel like Perry Stanley kind of accomplished that, if you know his channel. That takes a lot of saving up. I don't know if I can do that. I definitely want to fill out the Gretsch range though, because I love duo jets and I love country gents, and I think that's doable. But I don't know. What about you?
Yeah. Well, the Gretsch is just a special guitar. All of those, they're all super unique. Even you have a Tennessean, right?
I do. 67. Yeah.
That's the one that nobody had, or nobody goes for that. And
Right.
I love that. Like the pickups are so bright. You could say it's thin, but it's just that thing just sounds
cuts.
exactly like late 64, early 65 George. That's what it is.
I measured those pickups. They're Hylatrons, so the Filtertrons are the humbucker ones, obviously. Hylatrons are single coil, and they measured at like 2.9 kilo ohms, which is maybe like a third of the output of normal pickups. It's so quiet.
Wow.
But it produces that spanky kind of clean thing.
Don't you think there's something unique about the folks that sort of dive into the Beatles rabbit hole? Like there's something that I don't see with people that endeavor with some of these other bands, where like there's something about like we want all of the guitars, we want all of them, we want to recreate all of the songs. We want to have all the suit jackets, we want to have the amps, like all of them.
We just want more. More is more.
Right. More is more.
Yeah.
Oh well. Let's talk about your channel for a little bit. So what inspired you to start that and do it? And what are you trying to, like, when you started your channel, was there sort of like not a mission statement, but like what did you want to accomplish with it? And now that you've been in it for a little while, like where do you sort of see that going in the future?
Right. So it's kind of funny. My channel, I started in college in 2015 just to put out some music that I had made. I didn't think of it as a channel I'd actually really do much with, other than just putting some of my originals out. I have been playing like along to records forever and learning the right way to play things, but I didn't actually think that's what I'd be doing. So I received a Boss CE1 chorus pedal. It's the huge one that's really impractical in 2015 or 2016 maybe. And when I saw it, a friend gave it to me as a graduation present in a paper bag. I opened it up and I was like, what the hell is this thing? I don't really like the sound of chorus. I don't really want a chorus pedal. And then I realized it was like what Brian May used on the 80s Queen albums. It's for Shantae. It's a really cool pedal. But no one online, there was some things online about it, but what really got me, this is a long answer, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It was relevant though. So I YouTube searched Boss CE1, and the first thing that came up was that pedal show. Which, so that.
Oh yeah.
So there was a Boss CE1. Dan from that pedal show has an original like mine, and that just started me down the rabbit hole of gear. And at that point, I had this and a Tele, maybe my Strat by then, but I wasn't as concerned with gear as just playing and music. So that started the gear obsession. And I loved what that pedal show did, where they demo gear, they talk about the history. They, anyone who buys a new piece of gear, you want to look up demos of it, or maybe if you have gas, as you say, you want to, before you purchase it, you're like going down the rabbit hole, like watch every YouTube video of a certain piece of gear. So anyway, I envisioned my channel to be kind of like that, where I'm like, I have whatever piece of gear it is. I don't see anyone putting out gear demos online of that. So maybe it's just a fun thing to do. So I started in like 2021, posting some gear demos. And then I just kind of, in the back of my head, I was like, I see these other people doing Beatles or whatever covers, and they're good, but I know there's some songs out there that maybe it's a Bruce song, maybe it's The Who. No one seems to have covered this. So
Mm-hmm.
started to do that a little bit. Not the Beatles. I did like Bruce Springsteen, the song Night, which is kind of a more rare one on Born to
Mm-hmm.
Run or whatever. I started to do some obscure covers, and then Get Back came out that November.
Right.
And I thought, you know what? Maybe it's an opportune time to post a Beatles 69 song. I think I did I Me Mine and something. And those just took off. And I realized I might be onto something here. I've been playing these songs in my bedroom. I have all this gear. Like, what? This is the perfect outlet to just post stuff and get it right. As you said, a lot of people get it right. A lot of people get it wrong. So that's kind of how it started. It wasn't, a cover channel. It's kind of gear centric.
And since then, it seems like most of your activity is centered around songs or recreating songs, and you have some collaborations with other people. Is that, you think that's sort of now your wheelhouse and you want to continue doing that? Do you have a goal of like the entire Beatle catalog, or is it just whatever's interesting to you at the time? Like,
I guess it's whatever's interesting. I think there are some songs that are obscure that I maybe want people to hear because maybe they just have never heard that song or no one has posted it. Like, I want to do some more obscure stuff like Odorono by The Who, or I don't know, something like that, where there are some Beatles songs I post that even Beatles fans are like, wait, I didn't even know this existed. So I like educating people in that way. But as we said before, it also helps me to learn the parts perfectly. And the Beatles community is so cool. I've gotten to meet people, talk to people online. I played at Beatles Fest a few weeks ago, and I never had been in the tribute kind of world.
Sure.
But it's just cool to meet people like you, and the guys doing it online are really supportive of each other. It's not like, there's not a lot of drama so far.
No. It's just all of us showing the joy of what we find in this great music, whatever it is. So if you could only have one guitar and amp to play with, what would that guitar and amp be?
I love these questions. Do you mind if I grab the guitar?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was my second electric guitar that I ever owned. My bar mitzvah money helped pay for this one.
Nice.
And it's a 2007 Fender American Vintage 52 Hot Rod. It's not a AVRI reissue, and it came originally with a Seymour Duncan mini humbucker in the neck. So I made it look a little more vintage, but
sure.
It's really inspired by Bruce Springsteen mainly. I put the 60s top hat toggle on there like him. And it has a 9.5 radius, so it's a little bit more comfortable. Satin finish on the back. And I just am a Telly guy. I just love Tellys, and the Gibson Les Paul and the Telly are my two main guitars. People ask me like if there was a fire in your studio and you had to pick one, what do you grab? And I feel bad saying this because it's not worth as much. I have these historical pieces that I could choose, but it just feels like home. I'm sure you have some of those too.
I agree. Yeah, no, I support that. So, and I think a Telly is on a lot of people's lists. In fact, let me grab mine. This is a 70th anniversary broadcaster Telly. So it's got the little broadcaster label on there. Anyway, I'd never owned a Telly, but I have for years heard the same thing, like you were saying, like this is the one that can sort of do it all, and there's a reason why, and I wanted to get exposed to that, and for a long time after playing this, I'm like, I totally get it. I totally get it, because you could make this thing do pretty much almost every strat tone. It's sort of like it's a little Les Paul too. You just need to drive some things a little differently. That there's magic in that bridge pickup on a telly. It really is.
But you were coming at it from being a Strat guy, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I was sort of starting from a strat.
Right.
But I love the middle position on telly, the middle position on Les Pauls.
Me too.
Like,
I'm a middle
that's
position
what
guy.
because that's what I started with the Strat for the longest many years. It was my only guitar, and so much of the sounds that I loved is the middle setting on a Les Paul or something equivalent. And so now any guitar that sort of does that is what I gravitate towards. So your guitar is going to be a telly, and if you had an amp, what was the amp?
So it would be my 74. Try to point to it. Pro Reverb, non-master volume. I love Silverface sounds because of the rooftop concert. I just love clean sounds. You can get it to break up, but yeah, just like I need a lot of headroom. I struggle with amps that are compressed because I want to just get as much attack out of the right hand.
Nice. Okay, 2 solid choices.
I don't know if I asked you your favorite guitar and amp. I'm curious.
Oh, yeah. If I only had one, so that it depends on, like, if you ask me today, I'll have an answer, and then if you ask me 6 months from now, I'll probably have a different answer.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, if you asked me 6 months ago, it would have been this guitar.
Wow,
for sure. Now, right now it's Les Paul.
Yeah.
And but every day it's Les Paul versus SG. So it's so neck and neck. But today, as we're taping this at the end of February in 2024, it is my Les Paul. And I think my forever amp that I will always maybe carry with me, that I always want to play through, is a Super Reverb. That's a 64 Super Reverb, and something magic about those amps for me. 410s, something magic happens when you get it up around 6 or 7. And I know Hendrix live played Marshalls and everything, you see him on that, but that amp sounds like Hendrix 100%. Now, if you only had one Beatles album to listen to for the next 6 months, what would that be?
My favorite Beatles album is Rubber Soul. I just love it. Just puts me in this kind of autumny mood. It's just very like, I don't know, melancholy and beautiful. I'm sure the White Album would cover more ground, but yeah. What about for you?
Yeah, that's I oscillate between Rubber Soul and Revolver. It just seems to flip between those two. So I mean, they're all great on their own, but those two, for me, have a lot of staying power. Something magic about that era.
Can't go wrong. Yeah, Revolver seems more like summery to me, or spring, than Rubber Soul's a bit more autumn. I don't know if I sound crazy, but
no. And I still have this is a weird thing for me. So like, because of when I was getting into them, it was just before CDs started coming out in the sort of late 80s, mid-late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was buying the US albums, or on record or cassette, right?
Yeah.
So I had the Capitol Rubber Soul forever, and I thought that was Rubber Soul.
Yeah. So did all our heroes, like Brian Wilson loved that version of Rubber Soul.
And same with Revolver. But then, like, I had Yesterday and Today on cassette. I loved that. And then it was only a little while later that I realized that what they did, like, and I would go and look at an import Parlophone album, and I'd look at their Rubber Soul, and I'm like, wait a minute, how's that song on there? Wait a minute. So like now a lot of those songs that are sort of the ones that weren't, that weren't on the US albums, wherever I find those still pop for me because they were like the lost songs, or they were the different songs, even though I've
Right,
heard them
right.
a million times now. But anyway, that era, that Rubber Soul Revolver era, forever for me. So Sam, tell us all the ways that people can reach you. Like, you've obviously got your YouTube channel. I know that's only one of many ways that people can interact with you, and I know you have some other things going on. So I want to give you a chance to tell everybody, like, how all can they interact with you, and where can they find you, and what else you got going on.
Feels like the end of Hot Ones, that YouTube show with the hot sauce, where you get to the end and you're allowed to plug yourself. But
Plug away.
So yeah, I have this podcast, Gear There and Everywhere, with Michael Sokill, Dom Rossi, Ryan Martin, and Pauly Pesos. We're all Beatles YouTube nerds, and we just talk about a specific, guitar or song. So it's on YouTube. It should be on Spotify soon. We just started it, but yeah, follow Gear There and Everywhere. I also have 3 Savile Row is my Instagram page, where I post about the Get Back sessions, and I have a website where you can buy some merch, including like Baseman stickers like Paul's, or things like that, some pins, and follow me on Shire Plucker is my Instagram. And yeah, I think that's all the plugs. Yeah.
Well, all the links are going to be in the description below, so I encourage everybody to check out Sam's channel. Go click over there and subscribe. He's got great content. If you like my channel, chances are you're going to love his channel too. So I invite everybody to hop over there and check out his stuff and give him a sub.
Thank you.
As all the kids say today.
Yeah. This is so much fun. Thank you for having me, Doug.
Anyway, Sam, you've been very gracious with your time. Thanks so much. Totally want to do this again, and we'll pick another topic and go deep on that. So we've got Beatles for days, and love to connect with you again soon. So thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me, Doug. Yeah, we need to do this again.
All right. Well, hope you enjoyed that. That was Sam Popkin. You can see all his socials. Go check out his stuff. If you like it, give him a like, give him a subscribe. He's got great stuff. But until next week, take care, everybody.